Hey guys, it's Leia. Today we will talk about how to solve radical equations. In order to solve radical equations, first we must isolate the radical to one side of the equation. If there are two, put them on different sides. Next, we want to undo what has been done. So if there is a square root, in order to get rid of it, we square both sides of the equation. If there is a cube root, we cube both sides of the equation, and so on. Make sure you are squaring the sides as a whole and not individual terms. After that, we solve for x and check the solutions by plugging them back into the equation. Here's our first example. We have the square root of x minus 1 minus x equals negative 7. First, we have to isolate the radical, so we add x to both sides. Next, we want to undo what has been done. Since it is the square root of x minus 1, we want to square both sides of the equation. This gives us x minus 1 equals x squared minus 14x plus 49. We subtract x and add 1 to each side. This gives us 0 equals x squared minus 15x plus 50. Now that we have a quadratic, we can factor it and get 0 equals x minus 5 times x minus 10. We split this into two equations to solve for x. Now we solve for x and get x equals 5 and x equals 10. We now check these values by plugging them into the equation. We plug 5 in for x first and see that it equals negative 3 and not negative 7, so this is not an answer. Now we plug 10 in for x, and this equals negative 7. So, x equals 10 is our answer. Next example, we have the square root of 2x squared minus 9 equals x. We see that the radical term is already isolated, so we can move on to undoing what has been done. Because it is a square root, we will square both sides. This gives us 2x squared minus 9 equals x squared. We subtract x squared from each side and get x squared minus 9 equals 0. We see we have a quadratic now, so we can factor it. This gives us x minus 3 times x plus 3 equals 0. Now we can split the equation into two to solve for x. We solve for x and get x equals negative 3 and x equals 3. Finally, we check the answer. We plug negative 3 into the equation and get that it does not equal negative 3, so this is not the answer. Now we plug 3 in for x and see that this does equal 3, so x equals 3 is our answer. Last example, we have the square root of x minus 3 equals 3 plus the square root of x. We see that the radicals are on different sides of the equation. So we go on to undoing what has been done. We will first work on getting rid of the square root on x minus 3. We do this by squaring both sides. This gives us x minus 3 equals 9 plus 6 square root of x plus x. It is important to remember here that we are squaring the side and not the individual terms. We now want to isolate the radical, so we subtract x and 9 from each side. Now we undo the square root by squaring each side. This gives us 144 equals 36x. We divide 36 and get 4 equals x. We check this answer by plugging it into the equation. We see that is not a solution because 1 does not equal 5. So this means that there are no solutions for this equation. Solving radical equations require a lot of paying attention to detail. For more help or practice on this topic, visit www.symbolab.com and click on the Practice tab.